I was watching The Nun last night, and I realized like Spirit has me going back and watching some of the movies that I've loved and like applying this new understanding that I have, and not just understanding from like thoughts and like other people, but also like real life experiences. And so, one quote from the movie that stood out was like when they were breaking down possession, right? And they talked about like infestation is the first step, oppression is the second step, and then possession is the next step. And like a lot of people, just from like looking at different videos that I see go viral, a lot of people are very afraid of um, exploring their spirituality, not even because they want to cling to something specific other than that, but just because like there's always this like, be careful, be safe, like you're in danger, don't, people, they go into spirituality and they don't realize it's not for the weak or like the faint of heart, right? And so I like to like help people open their mindset but also be safe at the same time, because the truth is anything can be dangerous, but I have the advantage of like growing up with that understanding, and some people just don't, or having that understanding and applying it to taking steps forward. My dad taught me when I was young, you could step outside and like something can happen. Like you could be in your house and something can happen, right? So even though I talk about how I've had to work through a lot of my fears over the last 2 or 3 years, for the most part, what most people fear is not what I fear. It's like other stuff. But anyway, so here's an example of why, yes, you should be safe, but also like clinging to that fear to keep you from exploring your spirituality just logically does not make sense, right? And God, Spirit, Most High, whoever, right? We have a brain for a reason. You can't only use your brain, but we have a brain, we have a heart, right? The stomach, intuition, the second brain, right? They work together to build a network to help you explore yourself and the world around you. Infestation. So you have and I'm not going to use demonic but I'll say the painful side, or the dangerous side, right, of infestation. Everything is energy. So like if you let a thought or a feeling fester, if you let a trauma fester, right, this is where the infestation and spirit set infiltration happens, right? It's like energies, because spirit knows everything, right? God knows everything. Energy is everything. And so let's just say you have a childhood issue around lack, right? So then you are a breeding ground for either fear of lack, which can lead to greed, which would be like a form of the oppression, right? You're constantly striving or doing things that are against your values or your morals. That's where like the oppression is happening. Basically, that trauma of loss or lack is oppressing you and keeping you from enjoying other areas of your life. And then the possession, which is what we're very much seeing in our country's leadership, where that greed, that trauma, whatever, it could be entitlement, it could be whatever, is running the person. But it works the same way with pleasant energies, right? Infestation. You hear people talk about, oh, she has an infectious laugh, right? One person laugh and then 50 people are laughing. We're all laughing, right? So that joy, excitement, humor, comedy, right? The oppression in a sense is like being overwhelmed with joy or laughter or love or excitement. And then the possession, you are being used as a vessel to bring forth more joy, more humor, right? I think that the more people get out of this, it's not even binary thinking, because we're only looking at it one-sided. There we go. Shit. But I think the more we get out of this one-sided thinking, then you can graduate to binary thinking, and then you truly ultimately graduate with this holistic perspective of life. Because you, even being open-minded can be dangerous, right? And Spirit just had me thinking about that the other day, because I am a very open-minded person. But you also don't want to be open-minded at your own expense. And so, like in my case, where that came in, as I reflected by force on different relationships and just how I move throughout the world, I was being open-minded to protect other people's feelings, or like being open-minded out of the fear of being wrong, instead of understanding that sometimes it's okay to be one-sided, right? You don't necessarily have to hear a person out. You don't have to necessarily agree with or believe in what a person is saying to hear them out and empathize with them. And you can hear them out and empathize with them and still stand firm in your beliefs, right? So that's just an example. But that was the quote from the nun that prompted a thought spiral in the middle of the night last night. Infestation, oppression, possession. That can be used on both sides of the spectrum and the in-between. Even like when you think of like avoiding confrontation, right? That can be out of a sense of fear. That can be out of a sense of anger. That can be whatever, right? But even that can be healthy or toxic depending on how that's being used. Anger, if something makes you angry at the start of your day, it's important to pause and reset when possible, or talk yourself through it, or you become a breeding ground, right? Infestation. You become a breeding ground for either more events to happen to make you angry, or for you to harness energies that will use that anger to oppress you, which can impact your relationships and your health, because we know that stress impacts the health. And then possession. People, energies can use you to either create more reasons to be angry or to sabotage relationships because you are moving out of resentment and anger. So I love these type of conversations. And so feel free to chime in. And then also, and then I put a note, because me and Spirit was up talking last night. So I put a note to like using emotions. I used some examples of some emotions, but even the chakras or chakras. Thank you. So like if you are having difficulty figuring out where the infestation is that is causing the oppression and or possession, right? Think about where you're feeling energy in your body, where you feel or notice the imbalance, right? If you are a person like I'm going to say was, because I've been working through that, although there's still traces of it there. If you're a person that's very anal or rigid, that is something that can be technically we get rewarded in that, and being in a very like capitalistic A-type society. But if you are being possessed by rigidness, right? If you are being used or a vessel for restriction, then you notice that in your root area, hence anal, a lot of times you have constipation, or you hold your urine a lot, or you feel tension in your hips, things like that, right? Another example, you can be infested, oppressed, and possessed by fear. Let's talk about anxiety, right? A lot of people who suffer from anxiety have stomach issues, and that can be more looser stool, or nausea, right? And so that's your sacral / solar plexus, right? And so if you deal with a lot of like upset stomach issues, that's something to look into. How is fear or uncertainty or lack of confidence, how is that possessing you and using you to breed more of that, instead of you breathing a healthier, more confident life where you feel worthy of the things that you want. So yeah, and I can unpack some more because I love this conversation.